All right, happy Tuesday evening, everybody. Watching the World Series, and I'm always happy when I'm watching the World Series because I know that Geddy Lee from Rush is also watching the World Series, and that's kind of how I maintain my connection to Rush these days. But earlier this evening, Kamala Harris gave her kind of closing argument. Huge major speech at the Ellipse in Washington, D.C., where Donald Trump gave his January 6th speech. Over 75,000 people showed up in person, eclipsing the size of the crowd that showed up for Donald Trump on January 6th. She gave a powerful speech, and I'm going to show you 4 clips here in a minute. I put out 4 podcast episodes each week. And I'm going to show you the first 2 minutes from each of those new episodes that we've put up over the last couple of days. Kind of our flagship podcast, Hawk Droppings. This week I was able to interview a really, really interesting guy named Will Westmoreland. He's an elections expert, and he works on elections, and he's been doing that since 1992 when he got his start on Bill Clinton's campaign. We spoke for an hour. He has a ton of really good insights about this election and where things stand. And he's been doing this for a living for over 30 years. Then we have our weekly episode, Full Potato Friday, which I did something different this week. I did a recap of a whole bunch of interesting things that I read this week about the election, the current state of things, what's going to happen next, depending on who wins. And then I'll show you the first couple of minutes of our podcast, Coffee with Hawk, which is kind of a news story recap that I do a couple of times a week. And then I'm going to cap it off with the episode of Hawk After Dark that I recorded on Saturday with my brother Falcon. And he and I just had a conversation about an hour about mental health and regulating your nervous system throughout this whole election process. And we talked about a whole bunch of other things as well. You can find our podcasts at hawkpodcasts.com and on our YouTube page. Links for those in our link tree, in my link tree. And right now we're doing a thing at our merch store, hawkmerchstore.com, where you can get this new shirt, Not Aspiring to Be Humble. And if you buy anything from our merch store right now, you get 1 month free of all the different tiers of our podcasts. You can subscribe to the podcast page or the YouTube page for free, and get certain things, but then we have some subscription tiers too. So please enjoy the following 4 clips. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Hawk Droppings. I'm your host, Hawk, and I've got a guest tonight who I've wanted to have on for an interview for quite some time, a guy named Will Westmoreland, who I was lucky enough to find on TikTok, who, I like to describe as an elections expert. So why don't we start with, Will, why don't you just tell everybody who you are, what you do, and what your experience is?
Sure. Since TikTok is a great place to just declare your brilliance, I kind of coined myself the, your favorite rural election campaign and elections expert. But all kidding aside, I've got about 33 years of experience in politics. So a lot of that is as a political consultant. Some of that was serving as officers, different roles inside the Democratic Party. But I started in 1992 as a field director for Clinton Gore in the state of Ohio. I was born here in Missouri, got hooked on politics because of a teacher that, believe it or not, a home economics teacher, took us on a field trip to our state capital when I was in 8th grade, and I just got hooked on politics. I don't know what it was, but I was addicted to it. I've been addicted to it ever since. But my first paid job was in Franklin County, Ohio, Columbus, working for the Clinton Gore campaign. And basically my role on that campaign, this tells you how much things have changed over the years. Columbus is now the bluest city in Ohio. You know that because you're from there. Franklin County is one of the bluest counties. But back when you and I, in our younger days, the idea was that you narrowed the vote in Franklin County, Ohio, where Columbus is. You didn't let the Republicans win by more than 120,000. And if you could just do that, then Cleveland and Toledo and all these other big blue cities like Youngstown, they would overwhelm that vote and you could win the state of Ohio. And that's what we did.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Hawk After Dark with your host, me, Hawk. I'm recording this on the evening of Sunday, October 27th. I'm going to do something a little different this evening. I am going to go, so I read a lot. I read a lot of different news. I read a lot of different commentary on a lot of different websites. Because I try to get as many different perspectives on as many different things as I possibly can. One side effect of that is that it makes me a little crazy. And I sort of have my cranky pants on a little bit this evening. So we're going to talk about a lot of things that I've read over the last week. We're going to talk about Donald Trump's depravity and why that is a feature and not a bug to his supporters. We're going to talk about the differences in the ground game between Trump's campaign and Kamala's campaign. We're going to talk about early voting and what that means and can we derive anything from it. We're going to talk about Stop the Steal 2.0 and what Trump and his people are already doing to cast doubt upon the results of the 2024 election because they know they're losing. And what people are doing about that. We're going to talk about the swing states and how if Donald Trump was going to try to steal the 2024 election, he's got to do it in the swing states, and he doesn't have any mechanism to do that in the swing states. And we're going to talk about his inbred, mouth-breathing Gomer dipshit MAGA army talking about there's going to be a civil war if he loses. It's, the fucking Hot Pocket Brigade, man. It's like these guys never know when to quit until a couple thousand of them get arrested at the Capitol for January 6th. Sorry, okay. I'm trying to adjust my chair. Okay. Thank you for stopping by for another episode of Coffee with Hawk. Kind of a bi-weekly recap of some interesting news stories that I do a couple times a week. I'm recording this on the evening of Sunday, October 27th. Right after Donald Trump's Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden, where a not insignificant number of people said unimaginably racist, misogynistic, bigoted things, with some homophobia and transphobia thrown in for fun. Holy shitballs, man. We're going to be hearing about that. And that, I think, was Donald Trump's point. I think he knew that everybody was going to be racist. Because then we will be talking about him throughout the course of this week. And that helps him with his base. And why is that? That's right, because his base is incredibly racist and misogynistic, bigoted, homophobic, and transphobic, and ableist. You are not a good person if you are voting for Donald Trump in 2024. You are a piece of shit. So we'll see how all of that develops over the next few days. But I would rather be Kamala Harris than Donald Trump right now. Why is that? This is a tight race, but late deciding voters appear to be breaking for Kamala Harris. The last New York Times Siena National poll found that 15% of voters had not fully decided, but Harris is leading with that group by 10 points, 42 to 32. That's what everybody wanted. All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Hawk After Dark with me, your host, Hawk, where you may have noticed a slight difference in the setting for this episode. We're going to have a little one-on-one discussion conversation between myself and my brother Falcon.
That's me.
There you go. And the first 3 minutes of footage that we just filmed, it was incredibly amusing. So we're going to save that and probably tack that onto the end.
I'll put that on the end as a little
a little bonus,
a blooper reel.
There you go. It was quite amusing. I think it will give everyone some insight into some of the challenges that my brother has when dealing with me.
And just how smoothly this operation runs.
Oh boy, howdy, man. All right, so it's early Saturday evening. How you doing, man?
I feel a little better today.